Now, Bob, I want you to talk about, in terms of Udon, and maybe its connection to ancient Kemet. So you're drawing these connections. How do the two relate, and what is it? What are these misconceptions? You said everybody has misconceptions. What are not necessarily, I don't want you to focus on the misconceptions, but what is the correct understanding of it, so that they're misconceiving about in the first place?
Well, specifically the Haitian voodoo. Haitian voodoo comes directly out of ancient Kemet or ancient Egypt. The people that put that system together, their lineage in many cases trace all the way back to the Congo. And it's from the Congo that civilization sprang up and rose up through the Nile Valley. To be specific, the Haitian voodoo initiation is 98% the ancient Egyptian initiation. You can study this in books by authors like Gerald A. Massey, where he goes over in detail the initiatory rites. And when you are initiated in Haitian voodoo, it's the same thing that they are doing. Haitian voodoo has something that they call Kanzo. Kanzo is the deity, is the moon. Kansu, this person right here. And Kansu is a healer. He's the patron deity of doctors. And you Kanzo as a priest so you can heal people and cast out what you might call demons out of them, which are extreme mental anxieties that you can say take over the cells and act through the person. That's a demon as in negative. So when people go through a lot of frustration and a lot of injustices and other situations, the way that they handle it in often cases causes them to develop what you might call demons within their system. And Kansu teaches mankind, teaches priests and priestesses and doctors how to cast those things out. So, and that's why the Kanzo ceremony is such a critical one in Haitian voodoo, as it was such a critical practice in ancient Kemet to heal the population. Then there is, in that tradition, the relationship that they have with the different, planets and stars, especially in our immediate solar system. And when you study ancient Kemet, these things become very, very obvious. Not just in the moon or the sun, but also the constellations, which are all members of our neighborhood. These are all the people of our neighborhood. The misconception comes from a particular sector of the Caucasian population feeling it necessary to establish themselves by way of delegitimizing another people's culture, to give them room to develop their own and to learn and grow as a people. This is where the negative perception comes in, as it is being broadcasted to the world and to people who are of that culture. And it's our responsibility as a species on the planet to fix these things. So, the role of priests and priestesses in terms of healing the population will extend into healing their minds, will extend into reformulating academic institutions for unity of all people on the planet. There was something else that you wanted me to speak on?
Well, just I was trying to get you to more so talk about the, these misconceptions. You talked a little bit about the misconceptions, but also about what it actually is as opposed to the misconception.
Voodoo is a very, very broad-based culture, and it's very, very ancient. The word food is the word voodoo. In voodoo, health is very, very important. As I would like to say, the only true form of enlightenment is the wisdom of love, and the only true practice of religion is health. Voodoo, as I know and as I practice, is very, very, very strict about one's health. If you're not healthy, there isn't much you can do for yourself and for your people, and you can forget about a long life and longevity. I want to speak about some of the connections that shows it is a culture that is representative within others. you have the deity Dambala. Dambala is Adam. The Adam that you find in the Bible is Dambala. In the Yorubas, this is Olutumare. Olutumare, Tumare is Tumre. Adam or Atum in ancient Egypt is called Tumre, Atumre. This is where the word atom comes from, where your science of molecules come from, because they're talking about the evolution of life from the subatomic level on up through the formulation of things like oxygen, not hydrogen, that's a basic molecule, but oxygen and water and these other elements, and then DNA, microorganisms, bacteria. These are the things that Adam in the Bible governs in terms of evolution of life inside of water. And so you find these things inside of these ancient cultures, what they were proffering to the world as a savage people without the understanding of science. You find these people have as advanced an understanding of science as you find in any Western academic institution. You would find, as I've illustrated and proven through my work, that they understood the hydrogen fusion cycle and the very, very intimate details of how this universe came to be. The tree of life, which you find in the Hebrew tradition and in the Bible as well, you find it in Africa, you find it in the Nile Valley, you find it in the Yoruba tradition, you find it amongst the Akans, you find it amongst the Dogons, you find it amongst the people of the Congo. You find so many references to things that you would have thought were not extant amongst these people.
And even if you can address this, in terms of how is it that you see that this evolution of African spirituality has migrated to the Americas, and that not just in the United States, but in South and Central America and the islands, and has grown in such a way that now there's almost like a rebirth of African spirituality, and it now is taking a life in such a way that you have people writing books, but not only people writing books, but you have lots of people practicing, but in a way that's different than what maybe would have been traditionally on the continent.
Well, when you're talking about this tradition in the Western world, we have to speak of post-colonialism. And I say that because in the Americas, this tradition was here before the conquistadors came here. In my past life, I was Native American. Before that, I was Mayan, I was Incan, and I've studied some of these cultures as well as I have ancestors that are from these cultures. So that tradition was here. When the conquistadors came here, they did a whole lot of not just ethnic cleansing of the people, but a destruction of their priestly institutions, from whence the continuation and the proliferation of the culture is orchestrated. But in terms of the post-colonial importation, you could say, of African traditional culture and the way how it is practiced there are several different things that you have to look at. How was it birthed? For instance, in Cuba, if you study the Santeria tradition, its birth was facilitated directly by the Roman Catholic Church. So you have that heavy integration and domination and imperialism of the Roman Catholic Church on that system. The same thing is said of Haiti or Haiti, where the Voodoo tradition really is in a battle with the Roman Catholic Church for its expression. Back to Cuba, coming out of Santeria, you have people saying, we don't want to deal with the Roman Catholic Church. We want to go back to the African system. So they form what is called Lukumi, which means friend of Yoruba. They don't want the imperialism of the Roman Catholic Church on their tradition, specifically because it doesn't give them a fair advantage, a fair